So yes, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ghostoul Podcast. Firstly, before we start, I'd like to thank everybody that's been subscribing, watching the videos, leaving comments, leaving feedback. It is really, really appreciated, and hopefully it continues. Tell all your friends. We're a small podcast, but we're growing, and I thank all the guests that have been on so far and all the guests that are lined up to come and see me. Anyway, this week's guest, this gentleman makes Kieran O'Keefe look like a believer. We have Kev Kerr.
How you doing, bud? All right?
Yes, mate. How are you?
That's got to be one of the best intros I've ever had.
Don't tell Kieran.
Bless him.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you firstly for agreeing to come and speak to me this evening. You know, it's a real honour. So thank you.
No, thank you for having me. It's an honour to talk to you as well. So here we go.
Perfect. We're both honoured. So so as we start, as always, for those people listening and watching that don't really know who you are, if you could just give a little run through of what you do, and yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Yeah. So I'm Kev Kerr. I've been in the paranormal my entire life. That's the only way to describe it. Started like most people with just a bit of an interest. Used to read loads of books when I was a kid. Pretty much from the moment I could read, it was all about 14 and flipping ghosts and all the spooky stuff. Grew up in old pubs, so I had loads of experiences when I was younger.
Oh wow!
Kind of kept it all to myself, like you do. You know, it was a bit weird back then, so like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then I think it was about 2010-ish. I said, right, I'm going into the field and going to become a proper investigator. And walked in and was like, what the hell is this? Like, no wonder there's been no new things coming through for like the last decade.
Yeah.
So I started a mission just to try and change people's minds and be like, look, you need to do it properly. This is the best way to do it. And I started with a team, Ghostoul Paranormal Research. It's just the three of us, went to different locations and things. Had some pretty cool experiences and things. When we first start investigating, everything's a bit exciting.
Everything's like wow, look at that.
Like, check this out. Like, I'm in the dark. This is amazing. You know, I wish I could have that buzz back, but that's well and truly gone now. But then, I literally moved on to create a thing called Paranormal, which was a website that went through. We spoke about like the brain, and we looked at all the academic aspects. You know, I worked with the ASAP, like the Association of Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena, and SPR, and all those kind of people. Started doing residential investigations, so trying to look out for those people with like mental health issues, and try and sort of find some evidence, but at the same time try and help those people who weren't necessarily having a paranormal experience, but life wasn't that great. You know, as I found, did that for about 6 years. Wrapped up about 3 years ago. Just got to the point where I was so skeptic that I began to hate the paranormal, and it was like, I need to take a break here. Came back in, I suppose it's been about 2 and a bit years ago now, with a totally different mindset, a bit more open-minded, just remembering that I love the paranormal and I love all these spooky things and that buzz and that kind of stuff. So I started Kev Kerr Paranormal, which is more of a open-minded investigation type information if anyone wants it. You know, I've got decades in the game, and if people want to learn something, I'm happy to tell them, or I'm happy to learn. So that's where I am now.
That sounds good. So you mentioned that obviously you liked reading stories and books and that when you were younger. What age did you actually start? Like you say, you started going out and going into the field. What age were you?
Going into the field? Oh, early 20s. By the time I actually went into the 20s.
Field.
Yeah. I started reading up on stuff pretty much from 6, 7. You know.
Yeah.
As soon as I was able to sit there and read, it was like that was the things I was picking up on. It was like great. But coming from like complete believer, then for pretty much all the way through my teens, was a believer. Once I started studying psychology and science and engineering and that kind of thing, the brain changed, and it was like, okay, are there answers that we're ignoring here? And then thus skepticism began. So
I was going to ask, have you always been a skeptic? But clearly not.
Oh no.
Was your younger years, like as a believer, was that because it was so new to you, and it was?
I think as a believer, it was. Let's say I grew up in old pubs. Had multiple personal experiences, absolutely insane ones at some points, and there was nothing you could do to change my mind that ghosts existed. You know, I was a militant believer. I would change people's minds about it. You know, I remember once I was at a house party and someone said, "Nah, it's a load of rubbish." I said, "Okay." I got a digital camera and took a photo of the thing, pointed where orb was going to be, and there was an orb, and then went out like the back of the house, and there's like big woodlands at the back of the house. So it was like, right, take a few photos, and we had this sort of mist moving up into the woods, you know, stage by stage in the photos. And I was like, see, it was smoke. You know, I was smoking a fag at the time, but in my eyes, that was it. It was real, you know. But it was that kind of. I knew in my heart of hearts that it wasn't what I was saying it was, you know. And then as I began to study psychology, I got really interested in the brain and how it worked. And it was like, okay, think about hallucinations and thinking about, you know, being in that fight, flight, freeze response, what happens, and the way the eyes work and the communication between the brain to the eyes and the senses. And all of a sudden, all these things that I knew about, you know, this phenomena I knew a lot about, it was like, hold on a second, this really lines up perfect. And then it grew.
See, I first met you at Parameet South this year, and when I watched your talk, I was thinking, wow, he goes into so much depth about every sort of environmental aspect of a paranormal experience.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't realise you could. Obviously, I've worked with Kieran before, and he goes into, like, I was at one place and I felt like fingers down my back, and he was telling me about the skin receptors on my back, about the different changes in temperature, and I'm like, what? How does that feel like a finger down my back? You know, and pretty much basically what you were talking about was every sort of part of the body, why we think it's paranormal and what possibly it actually is from like a scientific biological standpoint. And I thought that really opened my eyes, actually, your talk. And I thought, wow.
And this is the new Kev Kerr, so to speak. Like before, I'd be, you know, ripping it's this, and kind of ripping into it. Whereas like my approach now is more open minded. It's looking at, you know, not just the skeptical aspects, but the believer aspect, you know, the spiritual side of it as well, and kind of combining that and going, like, I have a belief that there is such thing as ghosts. Even though I'm a skeptic, there is. We don't know what they are. We don't know whether it's psychological. We don't know whether it's physical. We don't like. We've got a good idea, but ghosts exist. They've existed for, you know, as long as there's been human beings to experience them. Yeah. So it's when you look at this phenomena, you got to look at it from like both aspects. You got to look at it from it could be, I don't know, the ghost of a dead person that's come back. It could be a complete hallucination. It could be a physical thing that we're feeling. It could be down to mental illness. It could be down, like, all these different aspects you need to look at to find the actual truth. And I've always said the actual truth. Like, a lot of people want their truth. You know, they want to be believers, and it might be personal to them for whatever reason. They might have lost a loved one, and obviously I used to be that arsehole that told them that loved one was gone forever and you'd never see him again, and I used to get attacked for that, you know, and I understand that completely more now than I did then. But if you want to find the truth in the paranormal, you've got to be open to every aspect. That includes, you know, the arsehole skeptic right the way through to, you know, someone who would believe that, you know, a set of keys hanging on a hook was paranormal. You know, you've got to try and be as open-minded as possible.
So have you ever had things happen to you? I don't know, breaths in your ears, like being touched maybe, and you think, it's paranormal, and then you think, no, wait there.
I think I use Guy's Cliff in that talk where it talks about tactile phenomena where you feel like being touched. And I couldn't get into Guy's Cliff as just me as an investigator, and it was like, it annoyed me because I love Aleister Crowley, and he's part of the history of it, so I'd love to. I really want to investigate it. And it was my housemate that went, "Oh, I booked you for your birthday. I booked you onto an event," and I was like, "Oh, great!" Like, but it's true. It's the only way I can get in. So I was there. That was back in the flight case days, where I had about 20 flight cases full of kit and everything I needed, and I was there, and we scared the public accidentally because they got Zozo come up on the board, and I went, "Oh, that's the demon Zozo through the board, right?" And they're like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh shit, I'm in public here."
Whoops.
Like now everyone's petrified. It's like everything's fine. But at the end of the night, everyone went into like a room, pitch black. They said to me, "Look, can you turn your cameras off?" And I was like, "Okay, fine. I'll take it as a personal experience and do it that way." So I did, and this woman next to me kept nudging into me, and it was beginning to really irritate. At the end of the night, and I'm thinking, and I just swung my arm. Next time she was like nudging into me, I swung my arm, and she was about 1 meter away, and I was like,
"Oh,
what?" And it was like something was tapping, like pushing on the side of my body, and I'm like that, and I'm like, "There's nothing." And the medium was saying that there was these two ghosts, these two mischievous ghosts that were in the room, these two guys. I was like, "Oh, that's really weird." Okay, and that freaks me out a bit because it's pitch black. I assumed she was just really close. Everyone was trying to like stay tight in the circle, and she kept nudging. I thought you're doing my head in it, and then to literally just react, like if I'm going to see if you're there, and it's like there is nothing there, and there was like a table in the middle, and she was kind of around the corner of the table as well, so it wasn't like she nudged and ran. It was like just really, really surreal. But again, as I said about Guy's Cliff, that constant atmospheric temperature change you get, and tactile phenomena is reported there all the time. And it's when you realise that and you go, okay, yeah, so I was in that area first, and I was into that one. And it's like that's a logical explanation for what happened.
Yeah.
But when she wasn't there, I just went.
So is that what you put it down to? So you don't think a spirit was touching you?
Can't be 100%, but logic says that was what was going on. Does the
old Kev? Do you miss the old Kev sometimes? Like, that's a guy. I'm so happy,
Oh, literally. One thing I've loved about being back, a bit more refreshed, a bit more sort of open-minded. And since I've been open-minded, I've had more personal experiences like out in the field than I ever have, and it's amazing because I can see it analytically and be logical with it and everything else, but I can have these personal experiences. Whereas for a while, I didn't have a personal experience at all for years, and it was like even when someone had an experience, it was like that's what that is, and it took all of the fun out of it. It made me miserable doing it. It became less of it's never really been. It's always been a bit more than a hobby, but it's been a lot less interesting, a lot more miserable. That's the only way to describe it. You're just there debunking, and the mindset that you get is just horrendous. You get cynical, really cynical with it. But since I've been back and been a lot more open-minded, some of the things I've experienced have been mind-blowing. I've done obviously the TV show Sunset Supernatural, and what happens on that, it's not released out in the public. I can't wait for it to be because I really want to talk about it. Was a completely mind-blowing experience where a poltergeist was communicating live with cameras, with everything set up in a completely controlled environment, and I'm like, what? And the people who were there just loved the fact that my jaw hit the floor. And then I was able to have a conversation for a good 45 minutes with whoever this was. As far as we knew, it was female. She's known to haunt the location. And you could feel the emotion in the communication as well, which was so surreal. But old me would have, like, as in the real skeptical aspect, would have just been like, right, what's this, what's that? Whereas actually I just sat in it and just experienced it, knowing that I'd put the controls in place. So it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah, see, that's quite similar to me. When I first started, I never experienced anything. It was Most Haunted that got me started.
Yeah.
And one day I took my mate, went to a local cemetery. There you go. It spread from there. And as the years went by, the more investigations I did, I started experiencing more. My hearing adapted better to obviously the locations and wherever we were. And then I started seeing flashes of like spirits, if you call them that. I'm not a medium or anything like that, but I think spirits, if they are real, they know your intentions when you go to locations. You know, you get some people that go there, they never get anything because I think their attitude is wrong. But I think if you go there with the right intentions and you do, the more you work with spirit, as it were, investigating regularly, I do think, like you say, you can be more open to it and you do experience more.
Yeah. Agreed. And it's one thing that used to get said to me all the time. You know, a lot of mediums will say, you need to be more open-minded. And I'm like, I am open-minded. I think as I am now, I'm more open-minded because I'm open to all aspects of it. Yeah. I'm there in like a respectful way. And I've even had like hardcore skeptics like I was investigating like a location with me, and I can feel their negativity. And that sounds like the strangest thing ever. But you can feel they're in the room, and you can feel as things are beginning to happen. You're like, okay, we had a amazing personal experience in Jamaica went to try it again about a couple of months later. It was building like it was before, and then it just disappeared again. But you could feel why, and I think it was down to a person in the room who was skeptically negative. You know, you can be skeptical as in questioning, that's fine, but skeptically negative, like whatever. And it seems to like build and then disappear. And I'm learning more from being open to that and saying, okay, that's fine, than I ever did when I was like, right, okay, so what's the temperature now? What's the like air pressure now? What's like, where are we at? Oh, okay, what's the reading we're going to take? You know, and just kind of being more spiritual, I suppose.
So you like, if you experience activity, now you actually focus on that afterwards and think, right, what could that have been, rather than as it's happening at the time you are picking holes in it. So obviously, I would say that's probably a better way. Here's some evidence. Can this be debunked? Can we explain this?
Investigators do it all the time. Where they always go wrong is they go, everyone says like baselines, you know, I'm gonna set up baselines. You're like, well, the EMF baselines are pointless. You know, they change and evolve, and it all depends what signal's being received and sent, and you know what's hitting the wiring. It's to try and put a baseline is difficult. It's not easily done unless you are carrying some really expensive equipment that can constantly data log everything. So find the thing that happens. You know, I always say wood chest with stone throwing and wood chest happens more often than not.
In the corridor.
Like we've got the corridor. I've had them thrown the main corridor, the back corridor out to the car park. I've had it in the library area. You know, so I'm like, right, that's what I'm going to investigate. I'm not going to go and investigate what the temperature is and all that kind of stuff. I'm going to investigate stone throwing in that area. How do I investigate stone throwing? Okay, and then and then get into the situation. Just be present for the situation. And if it happens, and okay, you manage to catch it on camera, wonderful. If you don't, it doesn't matter, because if you catch it on camera, you've got hordes of people behind you going, "You threw a stone," you know. Else. You're never going to win. So take it as a personal experience, and then hope you get some data from it, and hope that you get some footage or anything else. So you're only ever going to prove anything to yourself. So it's in those situations is go in open-minded, go right. What do we experience? Okay, I've spoken to multiple different people. They say this room's super haunted. Okay, we can monitor that room and carry on doing whatever we need to do. Or you sat there, you get a disembodied voice in another room. You know, oh, that's weird, and then adjust accordingly. Right, no problem. I'm going to set up a EVP recorder, see what we pick up, or just decide to monitor with a camera and say, right, okay, because your camera's got your thing anyway.
Recording.
But we know that's happening, but it is what it is. Don't run for it. Don't just modify what you're doing and be fluid as you're investigating. But just make sure you're always present for it.
Do you think that organisations like ASAP and SPR going forward are the way to get involved with investigating anyway?
ASAP and SPR are good for if you want to be a residential investigator. If you want to go into a residential situation, people see it as harmless. It's so fucking dangerous.
Is that all they mainly focus on?
No. So ASAP look at a sort of method more where they're just sort of data logging as they go.
Okay.
It's a bit of a lazy, unentertaining method, which is fine, and some people like it.
Yeah.
But it's all about data log. It's all about notepad and pen and times and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But
so if there's a constant,
regularity, you're there. I've learned from experience, you can be there just at the right moment. And that could be once every 2 years. Just the odd moment where suddenly something happens.
Yeah. Wow.
But so one night's not going to cut it. But they also train for like the National Register of Professional Investigators, which I used to train with them and do all of that aspect of things, where they teach about how to do residential investigations, how to be ethical, how to do it properly, how to make sure people get the right help if they need it. Not I'm going to investigate, then I need a medium to come in and bless the house and that kind of aspect. They go in, they see what's really happening. And then again with the SPR, we look at Steve Parsons' work with, I forget the name, I've got the book sat there, but basically how someone should investigate the paranormal and how they should do it properly, which is right, to get data, to solve an issue, to help someone, brilliant. And that's what those organizations are good for. And if you think you can do it, go and do it. Unless you really know what it involves, which is a shit ton of time, effort, for no money, for no take, purely for the love of it, you risk being attacked. It sounds like well over top. You risk being attacked.
Yeah.
You probably ain't going to experience any paranormal phenomena. You're going to experience a lot of people with a lot of problems. You've got to be there for those people. You take on that situation when you do it. So when you're dealing with those cases, yes, ASAP and SPR, like they're the way to go. That's the route to take.
Yeah.
SPR as well for if you want to do some real research. If you're nailing down on something like stones thrown at Woodchester. Stone thrown at Woodchester. I've got multiple different theories of how it works. It's going to cost me X amount of money for equipment and all that kind of stuff. And you can approach the SPR and say, is there any chance you can fund me for this? And you better be academic if you're going to do it. You better have it all lined up, but they will pay for the kit. They will help you with the methodology. There's multiple different minds in that organization for every scientific aspect you can think of, every engineering aspect. There are people within their ranks who are hyper intelligent, who will help you no end. And there's some wonderful people who just love to get involved as well. So there's those options. And then there's like ghost hunting, which is just going out to locations, trying, everything from REM pods to spirit boxes to all kinds of stuff, and just sort of going along with it,
and see what you get.
Yeah, see what, and it is just finding out the hard way, go and enjoy yourself and make the most of it, because there's so many different levels to it. Like, when I do the TikToks, it's like there's spiritual investigation, there's team investigation, there's event investigation, there's residential, there's all this massive, huge world that not a lot of people cover.
No. It's
ASAP and SPR, they're worth getting involved with just for the information you get from them. You get journals, you get all kinds of magazines and things, conferences. I keep looking over my bookshelf. It's worth. I think it's pretty cheap per month. SPR conferences are really expensive. I'm not going to deny it, but very interesting as well. There's a lot of scientists out there doing a lot of work in the paranormal field, which actually is surprising when you do find that out.
Yeah. Do you think that, like, the community, the paranormal community, as it were, at the moment, do you think that they should at some point take a little delve into SPR and ASAP just to see, just to help them?
Yeah,
not necessarily stay with them, but like
just see what it's about.
Yeah,
like completely. They ASAP do Seriously Strange every year, which is like it's a bit like Parameet really. It's just talks and that kind of thing, and a little bit of a social on the Saturday night.
Yeah,
and you'll meet loads of different people that you wouldn't see on the likes of YouTube or on telly or anything else like that. They sit on their own little island and study, and they study these different things that happen. and they're amazing to sit and have conversations with. They're just very in-depth, involved individuals with no ego at all. They study what they study, and that is it. And it's a very different world to what the community is nowadays.
Yeah.
Very different world.
So just staying with the residential side, obviously you see a lot of people on Facebook, teams going to help people's houses out. Like a family has got an issue, they think it's paranormal, it's a demon, everything's a demon. And obviously that's not something that people that should just go and do, is it?
No,
like you say, you do that. Is that your sort of your speciality, or it was?
It was.
Yeah.
Since I've had kids, since I've got a pretty good career, which takes a lot of time. I've got 2 kids. I've just got so much on, and it's so involved to do it. As a single guy, it's an easy thing to kind of keep in control of.
Yeah.
But when you look at, so most people would have done the what's it bloody? I forget the name of it. The poltergeist thing. Kieran did it, the podcast one, and it's talking about the investigator was basically staying there, and it was like months and years and years.
The Battersea.
That's the
Battersea poltergeist. Yeah.
I was thinking of the dog place. I was like, what's that dog place called? But you listen to that and you hear him. He's involved and he's there with the family all the time and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what it's like. You don't just go in for the night, set up a K2. Oh, it's bleeped to flash. Oh, you probably got a ghost. Right, I'll see you next week. You don't leave it in that situation. No. You're dealing with vulnerable people who are in a situation, and you need organisations like ASAP and the SPR behind you for backup in any situation. Yeah.
So what do you think of the people that do that do go in blind and potentially, upset? Because they've obviously even made a TV show, quite a popular TV show, about doing just that. And
exactly that.
Some of the things they get on there could be very harming and damaging to the families involved.
And that's where I think TV goes wrong, because we've got a public idea of what paranormal investigation is. TV play into that, as they do, but I think it says a lot about. I don't want to put them down in that sense, because they're good. They are good investigators.
Yeah.
But if you're going into someone's house, you have to approach it a certain way, and you have to be careful what you say to these people, how you act, what kit you use, all of it. You need to be aware that this person might not be experiencing something outside of themselves. They might not be experiencing a ghost, or you're not looking for it. That isn't the interest. The interest is this person okay? I've had everything from someone suffering with severe psychosis who's locked me in the house.
Oh dear.
I've had people who are just having a bit of a hard time in life at the time, and their stress levels are a bit higher. Not enough for them to really notice, but they're having these weird things happen around their house, and things are moving, and it's like, okay. And when you sit down and you decloud it, it all makes sense, and then suddenly everything's fine again. And it's kind of like, if you don't understand all those aspects, you shouldn't be walking into someone's safe zone.
No.
And then you're there as an authority, whether you say you are or not. That is what you become. And then you turn around and go, oh, I'm picking up on a bloody, I don't know, a ghost of this that's in your house. And let's try and work out, let's look back through the history. Oh, we've also found 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people's died in that area. They could also be affecting your house. Anyway, we'll be back tomorrow. You have a nice night's sleep. It blows my mind, and I lose respect for investigators that do that. I have all the respect in the world for the investigators that still go into people's houses, and they're trained to do it, and they've got the experience, or they've got the guidance, and they're there to help. Incredible people. And sometimes I miss it. Sometimes I say to Lorianne, I'd love to go back and do it, but it's just the effort, the time, the dangers. You can really mess someone up. And I remember, trying to remember how long ago it was now. There was a team in America who went into a house, and in front of a 14-year-old girl said, yeah, she's possessed by a demon. It was on the Bible Belt somewhere. I'm going to have to find the link for it. But anyway, we'll go and talk to the church and we'll come back and do an exorcism. This girl is like, what the hell?
Yeah, imagine.
That's it. Goes out in the shed, covers herself in kerosene and sets herself on fire. She doesn't want a demon in her. She's a deep believer in Christianity and that kind of stuff. So she's thinking, oh my God, it's inside me. I want it out. I need it gone. So she's just covered herself in fire. And that's what people forget when they're explaining these things to people. And they forget the damage they can do and the risk that they take in telling someone exactly what something is. When I got locked in someone's house was because I was a cocky investigator. As far as I was concerned, they were suffering sleep paralysis. They reported being raped on a nightly basis by a demon. I was like, oh, sleep paralysis, that causes that. And I was on the initial interview and I went, sounds to me like sleep paralysis. And they were like, no, and it all kind of kicked off. Turns out she's schizophrenic. So it was like, okay, I should have stopped because I do my initial interview. I go away, I look at everything that's happened, kind of weigh it up. But I didn't because I was cocky and I was arrogant and like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I've experienced all this before. And told them something completely wrong, which didn't help them, certainly didn't help me. And I completely misdiagnosed what the situation was. It's so dangerous. There's so much more to it than just turning up with REM pods and a K2 and calling out for a ghost to do something. Some people are like, yeah. When you don't do that, they're like, well, haven't you got your Ghostbusters car outside? Like I want to be cool because I want to. I want you to come in and investigate my house. You have this weird stuff happen. It's so cool. You know, some people like that. But there's a lot of people who experience this stuff that aren't experience a paranormal thing. They experience something that is damaging to their life and their existence and that kind of stuff. And if you make that worse and then you leave them to it, you're an absolute fucking idiot.
Yeah. I mean, many years ago, I did a couple of houses with some other people, and we walked around with the resident. It's a single lady on her own living there, and she was just telling us what she'd seen in the house, different areas, and then we spent, I don't know, 10 hours there from like late evening, late afternoon through till like 4 a.m, just sitting there with recorders. Really, nothing happened.
No.
And we spoke to her afterwards and said, look, we didn't find anything. It doesn't seem to be a consistent thing where it's every night at this time, it's a clock, or the wind blows when it's at night time and it bangs, whatever.
Yeah.
So, we just left it at that. As far as I know, she's fine still. But yeah, we didn't have all the flashy gadgets and anything like that. Because like you say, you are in someone's home. But we had like locked off cameras set up in the rooms, but nothing.
Yeah. I think we forget sometimes that, like, especially once we've done it for a few years, we kind of think it's quite normal. Like, it becomes like quite a normal thing to do. Investigating paranormal is mental. It's a mad thing to do. Like, it's become more popular, but it is one of these where it's like, you do what? And you're like, oh, you must have balls of steel. You're like, kind of. After a while, you just get to a point where you're kind of null to this. You're walking around in a abandoned flipping mansion in the middle of the night, on your own, and you're comfortable, and you're just chatting away like, oh yeah, anyone here? It's a crazy thing to do. But like, if you try and then do that in a situation with someone who's a member of the public who thinks that ghosts are real, everything's real, like we did when we first stepped through the first investigation, first place we went to, everything was real, and you pull out a box that flashes. And as far as they're aware, that isn't an EMF meter looking for fault currents or anything else. That is a box that is genuinely made that talks to ghosts, and it's going off, which means they don't know if it doesn't usually go off. They don't know if it goes off all the time. They haven't got any information. All they see is ghosty boxes talking. There must be a ghost. And it's like, if you're ever going to use anything like that in a residential situation, or if someone ignores my warning and thinks whatever, just then explain what that does if you know yourself. That's another thing. Know what you're using. But
Yeah,
there's so
exactly.
many issues. There's so many problems. But it's like, just explain what it is that you're using. That piece of equipment does this. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a ghost or haunting or anything else like that. It can go off for various different means, but it's something we use to measure or something we use to try and communicate. Just explain it as best you can. If you do think you're super cool going into people's houses and doing investigations, just at least try and do better at it. Just make sure that person's okay.
So I've always been one to use all the flashy gadgets and the gizmos and that. But as of late, I'd say the last year or so, I've cut back, and it's like a smaller amount. But obviously, like you say, you have to know what your equipment does, why it goes off, what happens when it's wrong, what happens, what can trigger the lights or the sounds to go off. And I don't think you should be using that until you actually know that, because you're obviously going to get lots of false readings. You're going to have false conclusions to areas and what's happening. And I do think it is good sometimes not to use equipment. And when I work with Are You Haunted, Phil and Sarah, they don't use equipment. Yeah. So for me, that's like a break, and it's nice to see both sides.
That's my preferred method.
Yeah, when you just go in there and say, right, if something happens, then it happens. Yeah. And sometimes I quite like that. You're not forcing it by saying, I've got this here, you need to let me know if you're here using this. But yeah, I do think it is nice to have a break sometimes and just
it's having a personal experience, like
exactly
and just going with it. And you're not looking for evidence, you're not looking at you politely ask for something to happen, and the majority of the time it's if you're asking for a knock, I'm asking for a very specific thing to happen. And if ghosts were real, why are you asking them to knock if they've never done that to someone else? Yeah. So ask them to do something that's caught someone's attention before. Ask them, if you are talking to the ghost of someone who's passed or a projection of an individual or whatever it is, ask them to do something where someone has noticed them before. That's the easiest way. If you are a ghost, hundreds of people are walking past you every day without even noticing you at all. You're going to notice a difference when someone goes and they look at you, or they realise a noise you've made is a thing. So do that. And that's what I like about not having the equipment, is kind of going, you can do whatever you want. Do whatever you like. Just here for that experience. Have the discussion. The ghost could be anything, whether it's elemental, whether it's whatever. It can be all of those things, or it could just be in my mind, but I'm going to be present when that happens.
You see that more people have experienced paranormal activity without gadgets, without gizmos, without even realizing, when they're doing something in the house or they're walking through a library or something, they haven't got their equipment out. So most experiences are just when you're doing every normal day-to-day things.
Well, I don't even know how many investigations I've done. Hundreds, probably more. I'm not sure. A lot. And so even when I'm looking at it from a skeptical perspective, and I've got my notepad and everything else, I probably would use that maximum of about 3/4 of the time, and then I'd have bleepy flashy time, which is nothing's really happening. Knock yourselves out. Use whatever kit you want. Just put everything out. It doesn't matter. And in all those times, only twice have I ever known an EMF meter to give accurate answers to a completely a controlled environment, everything. Give these weird answers that are that's perfect. And I'm also thinking about how I'm asking the questions, how often this thing's going off. I'm asking it to stop. I'm asking it to start. And one time at bloody Warmley Clock Tower, we were doing it was a bunch of students who wanted to do a bit of filming about the paranormal. I said, okay, that's fine. And then I sent them up to the top floor with a camera, set up 2 EMF meters and said, just call out, just ask stuff to happen. And then the radio went off and they're like, this thing's going wild. And I was like, oh, okay. So I come up and I was explaining, there's an EMF meter. It's not showing you anything. Yada, yada, yada. I said, if it was, it'll be able to do this one, and then it can go over to the one at the end of the thing, and then it can make that go off as well. And at the end of the thing, beep. I went, all right, whatever. Can you do that again? And it did it. I was like, okay, come back to this one then. And beep. And it's bearing in mind, like, the room is was it 10, 20 meters long? I was like, okay. And I went backwards and forwards, sort of, okay, do this one, beep, beep, and this one. All right, and then go and do that one. Beep, beep. And I was thinking, right, just when I was explaining that this is impossible, this can't possibly happen. If it was real, this would happen, and it was happening.
Yeah.
And another time was a confidential location right on the coast, down south, and we were having a full-blown conversation with a person who worked there, who was known, and asking loads of different questions and getting these answers that were all accurate all the way through. And then it's like, can you do me a favor, just not affect it? Nothing, just dropped out.
Stops, yeah.
And you're thinking, so you're waiting, and everyone's getting impatient. It's like, okay, can you go towards it again? Perfect. And off it goes again. And it's like, and you've always got to be aware of yourself when you're using those kind of things, that you're not lining yourself up with almost the natural reading that's happening just when the buzz is happening, because you see it a lot, especially on YouTube and things, where people are calling out and they kind of line themselves up with a kit that's doing a constant noise. And it's mind-blowing when it happens, but twice in all that time it shows.
I've had a REM pod for about 7 years. It's never gone off. I've got two actually. A different. Yeah, no, I ain't got no batteries yet. No, shit, I forgot. But yeah, like I see people's, like I've been on investigations, public events. Their REM pods go off all the time. YouTube videos that go off. Mine never goes off, and I'm happy about that because I don't want my equipment to go off all the time. I want it to be the odd occasion. That'd be lovely. You know, but what I like to have is if I have 2 or 3 bits of equipment that validate each other, they correspond at the same time. Yeah. Like the REM pod will go off, and then I'll hear a bang, and then I don't know, a word will come up on the spirit box relating to whatever's just happened. For me, that's how equipment can help and can validate personal experiences as well. I mean, I don't think all equipment's bad. I think it's there to help you and to create a different side of the paranormal.
In that sense, it just comes to my mind when you said about it. There's a place in Abergavenny, not Skirrid, and we had the place for the whole weekend. And it was one of these places that's so strange. Things would happen, but just randomly, like little things. Yeah. And whenever you're investigating anything or doing any kind of vigil or anything else, nothing happened at all. And I think it was on the second night, I'm sat on a sofa, there's like a upper bit, and I'm sat on the sofa there, I'm talking to a friend of mine. Yeah. And we got the noise gate, the spirit box noise gate thing going. Yeah. And it's been going all weekend. And it's literally, the most gorgeous girl in the world just walked in. Bless her. So all of a sudden, this thing hadn't gone off all weekend. We were in the middle of nowhere. There was no radio stations or anything, so just static, and then it had the noise gate filter on it, so there was nothing coming through. I saw someone walk up the stairs and into the room, and just before I did, this thing went like really loud, and then something went up, walked around the corner, and then there's like a mumbled man's voice, and then it stopped. And it was like, what the hell was that? I said to my mate, go in there and see if anyone's in there. Because I was just thinking to myself, what the hell was that? And it was just crazy, because I went downstairs and said, did anyone see anyone come up here? And then one of the investigators down the bottom said, yeah, you did. And I went, I didn't. I've been sat up on the sofa. She goes, no, I just saw like, it looked like sort of black jeans going up. Yeah. I said, no. So they had seen the bottom. The 2 most skeptical investigators of all of us, they had seen the bottom half, and I'd seen the top half, and it was clear as day. It was a person, there wasn't anything like misty or anything else. Clear as day. Someone walked up and into this dead-ended area that no one walked out of. So it was like, what the hell? But at that time, the noise gate went off, for the first time in pretty much just over 2 days. And then once it disappeared, this kind of boom, boom, boom noise, and then off it went. And it was like, I don't know.
So you've seen a spirit. Even though you've seen it, can you say that you believe that is a spirit or ghost of a... No?
Because even though that noise gate went off, the coincidence, it's a one-step coincidence.
Okay.
With the logic aspect of it, it's a one-step coincidence. Amazing experience as a personal experience.
But the person vanished in the room that they couldn't get out of.
Doesn't matter. I could have literally... So I could have had a situation where a noise gate went off.
Yeah.
Got me into hyper arousal. What the hell is that? Why is that?
Oh, you started seeing things. Yeah.
And then I'm just like, and then I assume to see, and then all of a sudden I see this thing going around, and then my memory afterwards can make it. You can never win. So it's like you can have these amazing personal experiences, but you can't become a believer from that.
Okay. What about the other two people that saw the legs? Could they hear the noise gate as well?
Yeah, because it was like an open plan.
Oh, right. Okay.
It was like a walk up. There was that sort of open plan-ish. Well, and it was old floorboards basically, so there was like holes all the way through. Yeah. The noise gate was in front of me in the room, and it was loud, so they could hear top to bottom basically. But they were as blown away as me, but they're still not a believer from it.
Oh. Anyway,
a ghost could sit in front of me and have a discussion, right? And we'll sit and we'll write down all the information that they give me. They could give me everything about their life, the whole lot. I'd be worried more about my mental health than I would about thinking I might believe in ghosts now, unless I go and look at that information that I know 100%. I'm no way I could know that or ever looked into any of that historical side of that thing. And then if that all matched up, then I can turn around and say, okay, now I believe in ghosts. But for that time to find all that out, I would be worrying about my mental health as to why I just sat there and had a discussion with something like that.
So do you think we will ever in our lifetime have a definitive answer? Yes, ghosts, spirits are real from the scientific community. Do you think that's ever possible?
It depends, because I think there'll be an evolution in what ghosts are. Okay. And if there's an allowable change to what ghosts are, then yes, we can, because we can find out that aspect. So when we look at the psychological aspects of things, how we project things, how we pick up on information around us, people always forget that all the time. We're not just taking in what we visually see and say, oh, that's a piece of wood. We're looking at that piece of wood. We're looking at the wood grain of it, the color of it, all these different aspects.
The depth, how big it is.
Every sense that we use, the whole lot, to realize that the brain takes that information and then processes it the way that we see it and everything else. Yeah. That somewhere in between, there's some disruption, that could say that's what's caused a ghost. A ghost is a disruption between the outside sense and the internal, your internal consciousness. Somewhat along those lines, where we've got more proof of that than we have of an atmospheric anomaly that people don't understand, or quantum mechanics is yet to discover, and all that kind of thing. So I think if we can change what a ghost is in the public eye, then we can get to a point where the scientific community can say a ghost is real because a ghost is
such and such.
So
So do you think that the only way we're ever going to know is when we pass over?
Yes and no.
Yeah.
Because what's really strange, not everyone comes back as a ghost.
No.
And there's multiple different people say some people go to heaven and they move on. And some people are happy to move on. And I know for a fact,
if you're religious.
SPR, exactly. The SPR has had multiple, obviously they're one of the oldest organisations for like psychical research and anything ghosty.
Yeah.
A lot of their investigators have died. Not one of those have reportedly come back. Now, a lot of celebrities have, if you talk to Huff and all those kind of things, but
Yeah.
the people who would have the most involvement in coming back and saying, right, I'm on the other side of the fence.
To
Do
help.
this, and this. I do that, but I am coming back to do it. It doesn't, whether I like to say I would or not, there's been multitude after multitude of people who have invested their life's work into the paranormal or psychical research, who would give nothing more in their life, that had passed away to the point, at a point when they had nothing but psychical research and they had dropped all of their money into it. They've left the SPR, the rest of the money that they got left, and they still didn't bother just to go, I suppose I better go and try and communicate from this side. And that's what we forget.
I just had you had an orb fly around your head then.
I was wondering if I saw that, and I was just wondering if my watch
it might
on
be.
one of the lights or not. Again, it's debunking mode.
Yeah.
It'll come up again, I'm sure.
It's got a face in it. It's fine.
That's it. Yeah, so I can see it. It's happy.
Oh dear. Oh, so do you ever work with mediums on investigations? Yeah.
So I think they definitely have their place in investigation, as just as much as any kind of meter or anything that you need to take a reading with is there. They do have their place because they can be tested and they can pick up on the atmosphere that's there.
Yeah.
So you can almost utilize them to see what that mindset where people are taking in all that information, whether they say the place is Georgian, what dates they think this building is, that kind of stuff. You can pull a lot of information from them that is not just the information of a ghost.
Yeah.
Because their brains, this is my kind of theory of it, their brains work very differently to someone who hasn't experienced trauma or hasn't experienced something where they need to be in hyperarousal most of their life. That they have the ability to pick up on all the emotional changes and responses. They're the perfect tool to say, okay, how you feeling now? What do you think about that? Yeah. And it's more of a psychological level. And at the same time, you can find information from them. There's no telling if they got it there beforehand. It doesn't matter if you blindfold them and take them to a location. Most people know most locations in the paranormal, especially if you're a medium. It is what it is. But I think they have their place. I never, as I've said on my TikTok videos before, I would never go on a spiritually led investigation at all. I don't think I think it's ridiculous to try and do that. I don't think you're not going to get anything from it. It can be entertaining, but it is what it is. At the same time, I've had mediums that come out with stuff, and I'm like, how the fucking hell did you know that?
Yeah. And
it's like, I know everything about cold reading. I know how they're going to hot read, and I know all these different things, but I wasn't expecting to be here, and they didn't know I was going to be there.
Yeah.
Like, unless they've done a lot of work beforehand, I don't see how my social media has mentioned these things. I've had some really surreal situations with mediums, and I got a lot of respect for them as well. Most skeptics kind of poo-poo them and don't even give them a chance or whatever. They're all charlatans, but they're not. Like, some of them have some real interesting viewpoints and real interesting ways of looking at things, and I think you've got to use them as a tool, but I wouldn't ever let a medium lead. That's no offense to any of my medium friends or anyone else, but I wouldn't let them lead an investigation because for that exact reason, the way their brain works.
So do you think they are actually talking to ghosts?
No.
Or spirits?
No. So I think it's
even if say I don't know, your grandma, for example, she's telling this certain medium you're talking to, and he doesn't know your grandma, doesn't know anything. He's getting every single thing correct about your grandma, what she did on a Friday morning at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
Would you still not? You would still try and figure out how you knowing this information. You wouldn't think it was your grandma.
No, I wouldn't. In the moment, I would.
Yeah.
In the moment, I'd be asking those questions and trying to find all that out. But I will always have that critical thinking aspect.
Yes,
where I'm
you have to, it's good to have
how
that.
Did you Yeah, it's like it's a healthy thing to do. I'd always be like, how could they have known that? And who could they have spoken to? And I'm probably going to speak to those people that wouldn't have known that and been like, has anyone ever contacted you about this? Or did they have a friend that was like this? Or, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't give me 100%. It'll be the choice between a tri-field meter and a K2. It'll be, actually, that person's a whole lot better, than that person who gave me this.
Yeah.
So it's like, they're now my tri-field, they're my better tool to use. So actually, I want to investigate with you because you're picking up on some really cool stuff. But it wouldn't make me go, that's 100% what they're doing. No. Because we do forget, and we do forget when it comes to cold reading, how Darren Brown is amazing at it, and he does it to that point where people believe he is a spiritual medium that is pretending not to be, because he's like I'm not. I'm just saying there's a method to this, and it really is. It's so easy to do, and I've done it to people where I've sat there and gone, I'll give you a reading if you want. You're this, you're that. Da, 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 da. I bet before you left, you were like this. Da, da. They're like, what? How do you know? Right? It's your personality type, your age, the way you're dressed, the way you hold yourself, the way you talk to people. You're telling me a million things about yourself, whether you're shy, whether you're all of a sudden really over the top confident, which actually means inside you're not. And I can hit that. And we've got to be so careful of those things when we're having readings from mediums. And some people don't know they're doing it. Some people know they're doing it, and they are assholes, and they should just give up because they're being just horrendous.
Yeah, that's true. It's true though. Do you, sort of following on from that, do you have any, or do you think any paranormal hauntings or locations or stories are fake? Do you have any that spring to mind? You think there's no way that could be real?
So, how do you mean? As in, like, what they put out in the public as what's happened there, and
like the Enfield haunting or East Drive, places, the Hostel, places like that.
Well, so Enfield, for example,
or that you've worked on or anything. Yeah.
So I've sat with Guy and Guy Line Playfair, and I've gone.
Oh wow!
Tell me, like, let's have the honest truth of it. Yes, okay, you've written the book, you made your money. I'm dedicating my life to this, and I need to know that I'm not wasting my time. And I think a lot about the Enfield case, because when I was younger, it was like mind-blowing. I remember it being on the telly and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, that whole thing of it, I thought, I have to know. And he said, okay, like, that's fine. He said, put it this way, there's a lot of stuff that happened that wasn't in the book. There's a lot of stuff that happened that wasn't written down. And he said to me, he witnessed one of the girls get thrown against the wall and go through it. And I went, what? He said, we were in the living room and she was thrown against the wall. She went through it and she appeared in the neighbour's house. And I was like, that's really far-fetched, And he said, that's why it wasn't written down. That's why it wasn't taken into the thing. No one in that room believed what they just saw. That's all. And I went, okay, fair enough. He said, but I'm telling you, the things that happened at that house are the things that happened. They were written down as they happened. And I thought to myself, I like that. It was just me and him talking. It wasn't like people were around or I was challenging him in public.
Yeah.
I was telling him as a budding investigator that I'm about to give my life and time to psychical research, and that one of the biggest things that have made me push further into it was the Enfield case, which was his case. And I needed to know that whether it was a fabrication or just elaborated onto a fabrication thing, and he gave me something that was more than elaboration. It was like, oh no, there's more that happened, so much more that just we didn't put in the book or didn't write down, or as investigators we're just literally like, if we say this happened, the case would basically be a farce, or would look like a farce.
Yeah, it would be too far-fetched.
Yeah, and it was like, I thought fair play, and that kind of made me sit and think, flipping out. But when you think about, like, Ed and Lorraine Warren, I hate them. I know there's people in the paranormal who adore them. They're an absolute farce. When they turned up to Enfield for less than a day, and they told Guy Lyon Playfair You can make a lot of money from this, mate. You know, giving him a
Wow.
nudge, and he told them to leave. That was their whole involvement. They walked in, they had a little bit of a chat about demons and God knows what, and then they were thrown out and removed from the case. And now they have a whole film and a whole stories and books about their involvement. When it wasn't, that isn't what happened. That, like, those two are conniving, horrible, manipulative people. And yes, sorry to the guys who are still alive and living off their coattails and all kinds of stuff. That's what it was built on. And I don't care if the people who are still related to them and still in the field have anything bad to say about me. I don't give a crap. What they did was manipulative, horrendous. They weren't in the game of helping people. They were in the game of fame and money and everything else. And that's the only way I can describe it. And now to watch the Conjuring films makes my stomach turn.
Yeah, because a lot of people have said that about the first Conjuring film in the Harrisville farmhouse.
Yeah,
that it was quite similar, where that Bathsheba was supposed to be the evil witch that killed her daughter and possessed the mum, but she lived in a village down the road, and apparently she's never ever been on the property.
Yeah, and that's exactly that's exactly where it all. It's exactly where the aim of the whole thing was about scaring people enough to be famous.
Yes,
it was about doing residential cases and making them worse on purpose. If you found someone who was vulnerable and you fed them about demons and attacks and all that kind of stuff, then you're gonna end up with problems. You're gonna end up with that person experiencing all kinds of crazy things, and then you're just writing it down, going, "Oh, you're experiencing that, are you? You're experiencing this. Great. This book, love, is going to be amazing. We've got all this stuff, all these things that they're experiencing. You better go in there and see what you can do to sort it out." And then it's like, usually when we do this, things get worse and danger, and then more stuff to write down, more stuff. Hey, we got a book out of it in a time when books about the paranormal and ghosts and things, there wasn't loads of people writing them. You could make a fortune if you sold them right, and that's the game that they played.
Well, if you look at all of their famous cases, anyway, Amityville, the bloke was possessed, killed all his family. Obviously, the Conjuring House with the mum. The Devil Made Me Do It with Arnie Johnson case.
Yeah.
The Conjuring 2 with a demon for the film. Because apparently Lorraine did work on that film, apparently, while she was still alive.
Yeah.
She was an advisor, as it were. But yeah, same as Zach. Everything's a demon in Ghost Adventures for the last 3 series. Yeah. Everything's a demon. And exactly. And it makes it cool or scary to have a demon in the title.
Yeah.
And
imagine Ghost, couldn't you? Oh, there was a spirit. Oh, okay.
Exactly.
Demon gets everything going. Hold on a minute.
I've never contacted a demon. I've never experienced a demon in my life. Negative spirit, yes, but nothing that I would say is from the devil.
There's a thing in Woodchester in the basement. Loads of people say it was an elemental, like a golem, and people would say it was evil and all this kind of stuff. And I've heard the stories loads of times, and it's like, okay, yeah, fine. And recently, when I come back in to Paranormal, we're doing an experiment down there, and I experienced it for the first time. And it was like, and all I experienced was a frail, malnourished person in a vulnerable position. In the only way to describe it was, they're malnourished and not looked after, they're maltreated. They wanted help, and that's the only thing I got from it, was that this golem, elemental, demon, fucking evil thing that was down there seemed to be nothing more than a desperate individual who desperately wanted to get out of there. And
sorry, my third ever ghost hunt was at Woodchester Mansion, 2009, early 2009, with my mum. I was in Woodchester Mansion, down the stairs into the cellar, turn right, the very far room, the big room at the bottom. I was sat there. It was about half an hour, 45 minutes into the vigil. obviously it's dark, but you get the odd light. Your eyes
Mm-hmm.
adjust. I saw a dark figure rush at me, scared the shit out of me,
Mm-hmm.
and it's that could be the elemental.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea, but at the time I didn't know nothing about Winchester Mansion. I just knew it was old. I just started being interested in the paranormal in 2008.
So many people experience it down there. It's a bit like so many.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
But it was so strange to experience it for myself. I'd heard guests and things, and it was just because I used to be part of Team Impact many moons ago. We looked after Woodchester as kind of part of Chris Howley's team and Paul Hobday and that. And she used to hear about it all the time, and I thought it was a load of crap. And then I had that experience. I was like, oh. And then the next time I went down, funnily enough, in the basement as well. There's a massive stone throw in that room.
Yeah.
I went to walk in that room, and it was the first time I felt like, oh, I don't really like to go in there. And I thought, have a word to yourself, Kev. Like, so it was like a bit of a momentary stop going through the door. Like, right, yeah, I'm fine. Go on. So in I went. It was all right, happy days. Come back out, sort of leaning against the wall, and bang! This stone whacked into the door as hard, like really hard, and then hit the floor. And it was like, what the hell? And it was like, it seemed as if something was still saying, I'm still here. It was really, really surreal. It was like, okay, fair shout. Because it's the first time I've been nervous walking in there, ever.
Wow.
Love Woodchester. Like, my little spiritual home.
Yeah, I've not been back for a few years. I need to go back again. But it's just amazing, the architecture and the fact, the story of the builders leaving it because they were scared out by evil spirits.
There's loads of history.
That's a good one.
What makes me laugh is like when people go, "Oh, there's nothing there, was there?" I was like, "Oh, there was. Like, it's Wood Spring Priory was there before. It was built on the foundations of that, and it's like, yes, okay, they were halfway through building Woodchester Mansion, but there's so much history in that valley, and it's one of the best drives down to a spooky location, especially in the winter when it's dark."
Yeah.
And you're going through this valley, and it's all bouncy. It feels like you're driven like a mile. You're like, "Are we there yet?" And then all of a sudden, this like massive Gothic mansion appears, and you're just like, "Yes, this is epic."
Yeah. So, what would be your favourite ever location that you've investigated so far?
So far,
yeah,
Woodchester's amazing. There's no doubt about it. I'm just trying to think. Jamaica Inn is epic. You have to do it loads.
Yeah,
that's the only way. Some nights it's a bit like Woodchester. Some nights nothing at all. Other nights just really interesting, really heavy phenomena. I'd have to say Jamaica Inn. Just to go against Woodchester, but definitely Jamaica Inn.
Everything. Do you think that it doesn't have to be the activity that you get when you're at the location? It could be the history of the location, the atmosphere, what it feels like, the connection you have to it.
Yeah.
Do you think that helps?
I never really believed in that kind of connection to a location until Woodchester came along. And it was like, I went, nothing happened. And I left, and I was like, I have to go back. I was like, I have to go and do that again. That was amazing. Nothing happened. It was just the feel of the place and everything else. Just, I have to go back. And the same with Jamaica Inn. It was so surreal because on my bucket list since I was a kid, I've been reading about Jamaica Inn all the time. And then Corinne obviously runs the Jamaica Inn Paranormal team. Yeah. Was a friend of mine, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm helping out at Jamaica Inn." What? Like, do you want to come along? Yes.
Yes, please.
So it's like go and experience it and be like, oh my god, this is actually something off my bucket list. Like, my entire life I wanted to see this place, and it was like brilliant. So we went. Since I've been absolutely tons of times, but yeah, it's one of those locations, Jamaica Inn, where after a certain point, probably about midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning, when everyone's kind of disappeared and you're just on the moors, and it's like proper creepy. Oh, I did get a reflection then. Hold on. Now there it is. See? There's a ghost. Yeah. So literally, yeah, Jamaica Inn, just incredible atmosphere. And we've had some nights when we've sat and it's really, really windy. So before they upgraded it a bit, really, really windy. We'd been doing the Estes method all night. We were just testing the Estes. Like this is when it sort of first appeared.
Yeah.
We're sat around this round table. Above us is the cartwheel with the candles on.
Yeah.
And we've got this round table all sat around it, and the wind's howling through the restaurant underneath all the gaps in the doors and everything, and moving chairs. So like,
Oh,
it got to a
wow.
point where it's like, and doors will be moving and flapping,
Yeah.
and it was just such an amazing, creepy atmosphere. Whether anything was a ghost, possibly not. It was like the wind was really coming through there, but it just gave it this real film creepy like atmosphere. The only light was these ones from this cartwheel above our heads. Everything else was dark, and all these chairs were just going like moving around. It was just another place.
Yeah, it is an amazing place. The fact I love it because I'm Cornish, or my family Cornish anyway. So for me, I always used to go down there on the way to see my nan and granddad and that. And it is such an epic place. It's so old, the history, and it just looks right, doesn't it?
And I love the fact that they haven't obviously got the new wing, which is like modernised, and you got the side wing, which is a bit
hotel
more modern.
rooms. Yeah,
but the main part, they've kind of kept it pretty cool looking and pretty like original. Obviously, they've upgraded amenities and that kind of stuff, but it's still got that vibe. And it's one of those places where, let's say, if you're sat in the main bar at 1 o'clock in the morning and you got the fireplace on, it's just lush. If I can describe it, it's just
there's no other word. No, yeah. So you mentioned earlier on about a particular Somerset project you are involved in.
Mm-hmm.
Are you allowed to talk about that?
To a point. So we've been able to do
certain details.
Yeah, so we've filmed a pilot. The pilot's been out to different companies. There was a big meeting today, I believe. I haven't heard anything back yet. But basically, the whole premise is going back to the basics.
Yeah.
It isn't about jump scares. It isn't about creepiness. It's about going in and investigating the paranormal in different forms, from mediums to investigators with gadgets to investigators that just go in, like me, who's a bit boring in a notepad and pen, all that kind of aspect in different locations around Somerset.
Yeah.
And then the plan is that that's series 1. And then it's, it won't just be Somerset Supernatural, it'll be Gloucestershire Supernatural. And so we can go to these different epic locations and use different investigators and techniques and that kind of stuff. But the luck. So John Shackleton, who filmed it and made it and put it together, I've worked with him on a couple of projects before. He was lucky. That's the only way to describe it. Like, he went to Shepton Mallet. He went to Walton Castle. Shepton Mallet, Walton Castle. Bath Theatrical Dress Shop. It's the old one that the films use. All these kind of places. And each location, they got something. And it wasn't something like, all right, we're going to throw a stone in this theme. He's a documentary filmmaker. He will film around whatever's happening.
Yeah.
He's not there to make something happen. And even when what happened to me and the real big personal experience, at the end, he went, was that it? And I'm like, you're fucking kidding me, right? Like, my whole paranormal career, I've waited for that moment. And he's like, oh, I thought, like, the candles would do something. And I was like, nope, this is as good as it gets. So it's like this real honest, really honest guy who's making it, a real honest people who are in it. And it's kind of like just trying to get it paid for, basically.
Yeah.
So, but as much information as I can give is, there seems to be some good news on the horizon, but we shall see.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to it. Even if I'm not in it, even if I'm not involved anymore in the project, I'm really looking forward to what he does, because he films all kinds of different things like Channel 4 and honest documentaries type thing.
Yeah. So
all he wants to do is film it happening. These investigators doing what they do, how they do it, the buildings that they're doing it in and all this kind of stuff, and just allowing it to be natural. He turns around, he's like, oh, so what are you doing? You go, I'm going to do this, and this. Okay, yeah, cool. And he'll just position himself with his team, in a situation and go, can you just explain what you're doing? So we've got someone on camera. Yeah, no problem. We're doing this, and this.
Yeah.
And you just do it. And then he'll go back and he'll edit it and put it all so it all looks nice. And it's like, that's exactly what happened. You know, instead of, wait a second, there's someone's put a voice over the top of that, or oh, that wasn't flying around the room, or that kind of thing. Just really honest, and it's nice to see someone with some integrity making something paranormally like that. And yeah, I really hope it kicks off, because it is a big breath of fresh air.
Yeah, I do hear that you had a particular experience on that show that blew your mind.
Yeah, that's the only way. Like Corinne and that lot, Corinne and Rachel were there. I've been investigating with them, say from day dot, a couple of years in, and they were like, see, and my face. Fair play to John who was filming. He got my face. The moment it happened, he got it perfectly framed. Just this moment of like, what? Knowing that something in the room impossible was happening in a controlled environment, knowing that I had been involved in those controls, and I knew 100% that nothing was set up, and there was no physical way any of that was happening, and it was just like, I don't know. And he even interviewed me afterwards, and I said, and for 2 weeks I pulled the raw footage. I wanted the audio. I saw all the audio waves. Audio waves were all lining up with poltergeist activity, and I'm like, stop lining up like every time, because I have to follow this. I have to look at this, and if it's all lining up, I have to follow what those answers are, because that is it. I want to find the truth as it is. And it was like, after 2 weeks, I was pretty much 97% sure what we experienced was genuine paranormal phenomena, and we genuinely managed to capture it on camera. And like I say, for him, that was amazingly lucky. And then the stuff that happened at Shepton Mallet was exceptionally lucky as well. I won't go too much into it, but it was like, like fair play. He came in with an idea of maybe a way to investigate, and we were like, no, see your logic. Went down that route, and it was like perfect, amazing. I hate the fact I can't just be like about it, but yeah, it is incredible. And sorry to anyone with that dynamic zoom that follows me around. It's
it's exciting.
It's like, oh god.
So obviously that's in the pipeline. Just a quick one. Why don't we ever see dinosaur spirits?
I reckon it's down to either the fact that we haven't visually seen dinosaurs. So if it's a psychological aspect, I don't think we have visually seen, like, there hasn't been enough people that's seen a dinosaur in itself to be able to hallucinate or have that moment in their head where they physically see it without the brain having to do some pretty high level work. Whereas we see people all the time, we absorb information all the time about different times and different history and that kind of stuff. But when it comes to dinosaurs, that physicality, I don't think we can do it. So there's a psychological aspect. The atmospheric, the kind of outside of us, is if we are, so everyone uses the term when they say like energy doesn't die and that kind of thing. If a dinosaur was a ghost, that ghost requires energy. That energy isn't unlimited to that one spot. That will transfer over time, and then over time it disappears and dissipates into stardust or whatever, and then becomes the next thing that it absorbs into and moves on to. That's like another one. And the other theory is we're just too high up. You know, the ghost dinosaurs are sat on this level, and we've got this much soil, and actually they're just underneath us. You know, multiple different reasons.
Just thought I'd try and catch you out on that one, but I can't. I didn't know there was 3 theories. I only had the one where energy finally, it runs out
over time.
Yeah, over the time. 65 million years is a long time for energy to be present.
Exactly.
Without being fed.
And we're dying all the time and born all the time, and
it
depends on your beliefs. Like I say, it's having that open-minded look at every aspect of it, so you try and find the truth. But yeah, ghost dinosaurs is one people try to test me on quite often. Usually like friends who are like, "Oh, you're a paranormal investigator? Yeah. Why do you explain this then?" It's like, okay, go on.
So before you go out, do you have a pre-investigation ritual that you have to go through, whether it be in your skeptical side or your believer side? Was there something particular you had to do?
What I don't do is usually about a week or 2 weeks before, I try not to watch any horror films or anything like that. And it's only because whether you like it or not, you absorb that aspect of it, and then it's so much easier to fall into hyper arousal while you're investigating.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, oh, stuff like zombies and all that, nothing. But when it comes to like watching a ghost horror film, something that you can connect those dots really easily. But yeah, I never do any protection stuff. Never do any meditation, although that is quite a cool thing to look into, of what difference that makes to do meditation, then investigate and open up and all that kind of stuff.
They say that could help, yeah.
Just to sort of go, okay, let's see what happens. I have done one like that before with someone else, where they were my guinea pig, bless them, and we had a very odd experience, but go into that another time. And then, I think that's it really, and just trying to make sure that my mindset's right going in. Just say like you got a midweek night investigation, you've been at work all day, you've had to quickly smash something into your face, have some food, and then jump in the car, drive 2 hours, get to the investigate till 2 a.m. or whatever. You're driving home.
You're tired.
It's not the right mindset to be there, and you're gonna have some mad experiences, or you're gonna not be on it when something does happen. And so for me, it's just trying to get that rest beforehand and clear your mind, get some rest, and then just be awake and ready to roll when you get in there.
That's a good one. A lot of people just say they go down the pub. so I really like you're really on that level. I like that. You're definitely right. I'm ready.
I just have a hatred for drinking before
definitely.
drink before.
Definitely.
Like, what are you doing? No, it's like, you do what you want. I'm not going to do that, but you crack on. Like,
yeah. So what's been your proudest moment in the paranormal field? To date.
Moment.
Yeah.
To date. I've done some epic stuff. Like I've done hundreds and hundreds of investigations. I've done loads of talks, TV, radio, all that kind of stuff. Love it. I think more my proudest stuff is when someone else does something off the back of what I've done. So like for me, it's by making a difference to the next generation, the next lot of people coming in, anyone who's new. But like when you get people who Corinne DeSant will tell you, like when she first contacted me, showing me this footage of a shadow walking in IR, and it was like, and I explained it, and she's like, oh. And then she began, like she does, ring message all the time. I've got this. And then her mindset starts to change. And you begin to teach someone, and they pick up on the difference. What would have been one of my proudest was, so I was a co-founder of the UK Paranormal Society, which is a charity that was initially set up to help investigators be proper investigators and help locations and all that kind of stuff. But because the Charity Commission is very limited to what we could achieve, so I stepped out about a year and a half into building that. And around that time, the Charity Commission was being a pain. And then they become a UK Paranormal Society. They look after heritage locations, which I couldn't, like, it doesn't, I haven't got the passion for that. I've got the passion for helping the people. That would have been a massively proud moment to get that over the line and have a charity that looked after investigators and individuals who suffer from paranormal phenomena and that kind of stuff. Just would have been absolutely amazing, and it guts me to this day that it's not what it is now. But yeah, I think more it's about the people. But I'm really proud when I see that my input has affected the way that someone investigates. I think that's happened on quite a few numerous occasions. We go like, oh yeah, I really liked when in your talk where you did this, and that's made me think, and that's made me do something different. A bit like you said before, when you said like going into that in depth for something, and someone goes, "Oh, I never thought about it like that," and then suddenly it opens up their eyes to like the whole thing. I think that's what makes me proud in the paranormal.
I think what I've learned this year is not that I did anyway. Obviously, whenever people speak to me, I always say, "Don't be fooled. Not everything's a ghost." Learn how, like, if you use equipment, just basically find out what the real cause could be. But I think this year, especially listen to your talk, watching other podcasts, or the debunkers on YouTube, I think the way people investigate is changing, and I've adapted some of that into myself. Like, I'll explain more while I'm filming what this could be this, or this probably happened because of that. Whereas before, in the past, I might not have done. But I think with people like yourselves, with Kieran, the YouTube debunkers, they are not necessarily saying, "Oh, we prefer it if nothing happens." But I think it's good to just have a think, take a step back and think, right, let's not go over the top here. And I think, I thank you for that, because I learned a lot from your talk. So, it's I think it is changing.
Yeah, and I think there's a weird evolution to it from like you say, with Most Haunted, bringing in loads of people, mostly believers, and flooding the the industry, but like flooding the field with like people who are like ghost, and it was kind of this like panic of wait, we've been doing loads of work in the background here, and like look at it, and be like, no, it's a ghost, no, it's a ghost. And people loved it, and they loved that, be entertained by these ghost things that were happening. But recently, I think it probably is coming from the YouTube aspect, where people have seen so much of that they're like, what's the other side now? Because then they're no longer impressed by people finding evidence of ghosts, because they think, is it evidence or is it fate? So then suddenly the interest in perspective comes from what else it could be, and an explanation for it, and that kind of stuff. And I've said to many people over the years, that's really where it needs to be looking. If you're going to do a TV show, if you're going to be doing a thing, you can have those things happen, but you need a Kieran O'Keefe-esque side of it that says, well, actually, there's this really interesting thing that the brain does, or, well, actually, if we think about carbon monoxide, like very light carbon monoxide poisoning, or black mold, or this is what effect it has on the brain, and this is what could happen to someone. So this sounds like, people seem to be wanting that more. Okay, well, why is it bleeping? Why is it flashing? Why is it, which is nice. There's that questioning attitude is coming through, until they realise it's quite boring after a while, and then go back to the ghost bit again.
I was going to say, I think people do want to learn, because we're always learning. No matter how long you've been doing this, you have to learn every day. No one knows everything, and I think that's what people are. Like you say, the tides have changed, and they are searching for something different. And I think it can only be a positive at the moment, I think.
Oh, definitely,
so that's good.
But again, and I will add, with even when we look at the debunking aspect, we've also got to be really careful not to swing the other direction, to become that cynicism and say, and we get to the point, and Kieran got to this point for a little while, bless him, where in desperation for it to not be paranormal, was coming up with explanations that were probably even far more far-fetched than the actual thing that they're saying is going to happen. And I do worry that the next stages of the YouTube sort of debunker aspect is getting to that point where we go over prove or over disprove, and then it's like, it must be this instead, and it's like, well, actually, you've gone really far-fetched. I know Beardo, bless him, had a run-in with Hayley Stevens recently, didn't he, with the article? But fair play to him. He realised, he saw it, and he said, I see what you mean about EMF and the effects on the brain. And he's like, so now he's going to go and study and be better at that. And it's like, that was exactly the right thing to do. Where most people would take that as an attack and fight back. And I do think that, like you say, there is, I don't know, sometimes I watch Beardo all the time. I watch Justin's Monkey podcast. Yeah.
And sometimes it comes across like they would rather not see evidence and just see nothing, because then that's real, rather than not acknowledging the possibility of something happening. But I just think sometimes I listen and I think, what if it is just a ghost? What is the there seems to be such a big rush. It has to be debunked. Like you say, don't go too far. Just, I don't know. It's
that middle ground.
Yeah, it is good to have that. But like you say, I have been thinking about that lately, and I'm thinking, it's going to be like, oh, everyone who gets activity is fake. And it's like, well, no, because if you can,
imagine you filmed a ghost really walked through the middle of your living room. Like it appeared, you saw it, 4 other people saw it, you had a Bing camera or whatever it's called up in the corner, and that picked up on it. All 4 of you pulled out your phones and was like, it's right there and it's walking through the middle of the room. So now you've got 5 camera angles, you've got multiple different people who've all seen this thing happen, and it just disappears, and none of you have an explanation. You could still put it down to special effects. You still put it down to editing. So it's like I said before, let yourself have the personal experience, because you're not going to prove to anyone, even with all the data in the world, and it will need a lot of data and a lot of money and time. Danny Moss has got it right with My Haunted Hotel. My Haunted Hotel is my dream thing if I won the lottery, to buy something like that, cover it and everything.
In cameras,
he doesn't put enough sensors around as far as I'm concerned, but I am not the money maker for it. So like I would have flare cams, I would have everything going. But he's got the right idea. It doesn't happen. One thing, he just goes through all these little things as it goes. And although Danny's Danny, he's very in your face, and he's very like, I think he genuinely has a love for the paranormal. I think he genuinely is one of those people that if he finds something, he shows people. And a lot of people sort of rip him apart and go, "Oh, fucking fake," all this kind of stuff. But genuinely, a lot of stuff he comes out with, it isn't that phenomenal. It's not like almost the work he puts in to show it isn't really worth it. But it is, because it's something that he feels has happened there, and it's like happy days. I've got there at some point, but yeah, literally, like those kind of things, those experiments that are ongoing, constantly running, and we need people like the debunkers with that mindset to be all over that, not in a negative fake, but in a let's come down and take a look, let's go and get involved. Let's and that will begin to grow the evidence-based side of it, and that's really the only way we can go nowadays with social media and all those different ways of doing it. Those people teaming up and going, you got the resource, I got the knowledge, let's rule the world,
So have you got any are you doing Parameet North?
I am, yeah, and then I've just agreed with Neil to do Parameet next year for the one in May. So I'll be doing a talk on that one. I'm not talking in North, which is quite nice, because it means I can just go and chill.
Oh, nice.
That's what I love about Parameet, is just being able to go have a few pints and just talk about ghosts and and
with like-minded people.
Exactly. And even unlike-minded people. The best part about it, and one thing I loved, was like you got people who can talk about, you got like Kate Ray, and she can talk about the Fae and everything else. You have a massive in-depth conversation about it, non-judgmentally, backwards and forwards. Doesn't matter who you are, you can talk openly about, and everyone's just flexible and loves it. It's just epic, absolutely epic.
See, one of the ones that I watched at the South was Liz Cormel, when she was chatting about fairies.
Yeah.
Now, I had her on the show the other week, and I said to her before your show, I was thinking, okay, fairies, really? Just my opinion. I sat there watching it, and I was fascinated. Yeah. I was like, oh my God, So it is refreshing to see things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And learn things. I mean, I know nothing about fairies. I mean, I suppose if you can have a ghost, why can't you have a fairy? Why can't you have Bigfoot, aliens, gnomes? Why can't you have these things?
I've done years studying demonology, angelology, all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
I don't see them as any different than ghosts in that sense, because it's just more of a layer. Same with the Fae, with gnomes, with flipping mermaids and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like those experiences and those things, if one can be there, so can the others.
Yeah.
True open-mindedness.
It is definitely. So I've got a couple of questions left for you, Kev. I know we've been chatting for a long time. So, bucket list location. We can go there in an hour, anywhere in the world, for as long as you want. Where are we going?
Suicide Woods in Japan.
Suicide Forest.
I know. Yeah. I don't agree with outdoor investigation, because for me it's just messy. Too much stuff happening. Could be too many explanations. But if I was going to investigate anywhere that I know would freak me out, it would be the Suicide Woods in Japan. I can't remember the name of it.
Hachigawa or something, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Under Mount Fuji, isn't it? Yeah.
But then it's at the same time, like things like the Island of the Dolls in Mexico, all those kind of like
that's mine.
out there kind of places. Yeah, like I'd love to be sat there and get dropped off on a boat and be like, crack on then. No doubt I'm going to shit myself, but it'll be worth it.
The experience, yeah. My last question: if you could get rid of one thing in the paranormal, gone forever, what would it be? It could be equipment, attitude, location, a haunting story.
I've been asked this one before.
Okay.
I've got two.
Right.
That's all right.
Yeah, that's
one. Is obviously Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Ooh, controversial. I like it.
Just wiping off the face of the paranormal. That Bagans can even stay if they can go. Like, that's how...
Compromise,
yeah. And you won't like this one, but Most Haunted.
Well, I hate Most Haunted.
No, but do you know what I mean? That's what got you into it. And that
yeah. Oh, no, I thank them for that. But, you know, it was fake as anything after a while.
Yeah.
So, no.
It's like, I'd love to have that paranormal world where it was the good investigators. It was the individuals that were out there doing the research and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Before
it became like Yvette Fielding was suddenly a paranormal investigator. Carl Beatty, like, who are you people? You're paid by a TV show to fill a gap. You know, you found a medium in Derek Okora. Derek's lovely. It was lovely, and all that kind of stuff. But it's like TV companies brought these people together in this situation, and it molded the whole aspect of the paranormal, with turning the lights off and just I don't know. It for me, it just, if it wasn't for Kieran O'Keefe saving the day and an element of logic involved in that for as long as it was, I worry what would have happened to the whole paranormal community. Controversial, but it is.
No, it's like, I don't think you'll find many people that actually believe that to be fair, a lot of people do think that's real, even though you've got people in the back throwing stuff.
Yeah.
Caught on camera, but hey ho.
That's their need.
Pebbles.
In the field, you don't get those people.
No. And I do think that for me, they were integral. I used to sit there watching it with my mum and dad when I was younger.
Yeah.
Thinking, wow, look at that. That's amazing. You know, Derek talking to spirits and stuff. That's brilliant.
Mine was Strange But True and TNTV, Reverend Lionel Fanthorpe, absolute. Like, the first time weirdly enough, I watched him, and then I was at a funeral with an ex-partner's grandma that passed away, and he was the vicar, and I was like, holy! I'm in the middle of this funeral thing. I'm like, what? Like, starstruck. And then when I first got with ASAP, he was he just stood down his chair for ASAP, and I got to like meet him for the first time, and I was like, and then I was talking, not this ASAP conference just gone, the one before, and I was on the same lineup as him, and I'm like sat there, like,
hero,
like it's insane, absolutely insane, just to know that like my name was there with his, and I used to just sit there as this kid watching on the telly, like absolutely obsessed with this crazy stuff he was coming out with.
It's amazing. Small world, isn't it?
Oh, it's massive. It's like, you in the paranormal, like, you just people forget how close everyone is, like as a community. You know, we're only 2 steps away. Obviously, meeting Lorianne and she showed me a whole different aspect of the paranormal. You know, I was always in with the academics and with ASAP and all that kind of stuff, and now I've become part of the main community. You know, ghost hunters and people who are out, stay in the field investigating all the time. It's just, it's epic little world, this one.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think we'll call it a night there. Thank you so much for this awesome chat.
No, I've loved it.
It's been brilliant. If you could just let people know where they can contact you, your socials, etc., get in contact and have a chat with you.
Yeah, so I'm mostly on social media nowadays. So under Kev Kerr Paranormal, I'm on TikTok, I'm on Insta, YouTube, Facebook, all the usuals. Yeah, and then I'm in the middle of building a website which will also include my Pararationalized stuff from before, with a disclaimer to say, talk about evolution of belief and the way we are and that kind of stuff, to say, look at who this person was before, you know, and allow yourself to evolve and realize that opinions that were there and some of the rip-ins that I give people to what it is now, you know. So yeah, hopefully the website will be up over the next month or two. There's a lot of info to go on it. So.
Oh, nice. Sounds good. So thank you again, Kev. I shall see you at Parameet North.
Winner.
And yeah, thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
See you later, mate. Thank you.
Take.
So guys, wow, what an awesome guest Kev is. He's so knowledgeable. He knows his stuff. Go check him out on all his socials and go check out his website when it's up and running. And you'll learn something. Learn how to be a better investigator, or not to be as gullible as some people are anyway. So yes, thank you guys for watching another episode of the Ghostoul Podcast. As I said before, really appreciate your feedback. Subscribe to the channel, like the Instagram page, and I'll see you next week with another awesome guest. See you later.